my distinguished guests, my fellow Americans, this is America's day. This is democracy's day.
All right, let's pause the tape here. There was a lot packed into this 21-minute speech, from promises of brighter days to some subtle historical references. But let's go through a couple key moments together, starting with the open. Inaugural addresses always have a grand opening. It helps set the tone. And President Biden's opener:
we celebrate the triumph not of a candidate, but of a cause, the cause of democracy,
was really similar to one 60 years earlier.
We observe today not a victory of party, but a celebration of freedom.
JFK would not be the only historical voice that Biden would channel. Mr. President, you may continue.
On this hallowed ground where just a few days ago, violence sought to shake the Capitol's very foundation, we come together as one nation, under God, indivisible, to carry out the peaceful transfer of power as we have for more than 2 centuries.
All right, it's kind of clear we didn't have a peaceful transfer of power. But even in this time of great turmoil, Biden is laser focused on moving forward, focusing on the future, not reliving the past. In fact, this was pretty much the only mention of what happened during the Trump administration in the entire speech. Biden didn't once mention President Trump by name, and there really wasn't even a subtle jab at his predecessor.
To restore the soul and secure the future of America requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy: unity. Unity.
We heard that word a lot. A lot. I'm keeping track.
My whole soul is in it. Today, on this January day, my whole soul is in this. Bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. And I ask every American to join me in this cause.
Okay, by now, the tone of the speech is crystal clear. But even if it wasn't a surprise, it was a different priority than some of Biden's predecessors.
You know, if you look back to another pretty famous speech like Ronald Reagan's in 1981, virtually the entire speech is about how government is the problem and he wants to give power back to the people. Now, those are perfectly fine things to focus on, but they're not unity. One of the ways I think Biden stands out, he chose not to focus on the power that he does have and his party does have now, and instead focus solely on let's work together.
I know speaking of unity can sound to some like a foolish fantasy these days. I know the forces that divide us are deep and they are real, but I also know they are not new. Our history has been a constant struggle between the American ideal that we're all are created equal and the harsh, ugly reality that racism, nativism, fear, demonization have long torn us apart.
All right, let's unpack this. Maybe the most loaded part of the speech. When people say violence in America, that's not us. They're wrong. Violence is an ever-present part of America. Biden, who is a history major, is acknowledging that here, but he's also acknowledging our ability to emerge past these terrible times is also part of America. It's what makes America great. And actually, there is a very similar line in Bill Clinton's 1993 inaugural address.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Through Civil War, the Great Depression, World War, 9/11, through struggle, sacrifice, and setbacks, our better angels have always prevailed. History, faith, and reason show the way of unity.
So Biden is saying that our violent divisiveness isn't new. Our task is to move forward from it.
We must end this uncivil war that pits red against blue, rural versus urban, conservative versus liberal. We can do this if we open our souls instead of hardening our hearts, if we show a little tolerance and humility.
It's very clear that he knows that that's how presidents are judged primarily, and the people who we often think of as our greatest presidents are thought of so because they were presidents at moments of crisis and they met those moments of crisis, right? Like Lincoln, Washington. FDR. They helped the nation through that moment of crisis. So I think he's very aware of that.
To all those who did not support us, let me say this. Hear me out as we move forward. Take a measure of me and my heart. And if you still disagree, so be it. That's democracy. That's America. The right to dissent peaceably. I will be a president for all Americans. All Americans.
This speech clearly wasn't just tailored toward Biden supporters, but also those who didn't support him in the last election. But how many of them were actually watching this speech? A poll from YouGov this week found Republicans were 5 times more likely than Democrats to say they had no interest in watching the inauguration. And outspoken Democrats have basically spent 4+ years saying that Trump supporters are awful people. So it's going to be awfully hard for Biden to convince those Republicans that he's ready to accept them with open arms. Although I suspect Biden knows that.
May God bless America, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, America.
Total time, just over 21 minutes, 2,400 something words, the longest inauguration speech in 35 years. But it's incredibly consistent with everything Biden said since the day he launched his campaign. Of course, I'm talking about his promise not to govern 140 characters at a time.
I don't expect too many tweet storms from President Biden, so he might as well get his words out in the sort of public places while he can.
Hey everyone, Noah Pransky here. Thanks for checking out the NBCLX YouTube channel. For more videos, click here. And don't forget to click subscribe to join the NBCLX community.